Is this a better football team right now than they were a year ago today?
Um, I think it's hard to say that because we don't know how the receiver situation is going to play out.
Right.
And defensively, I think I would say it has the potential to be yes. And I think not just because the players they added, not just because of the change of coordinators, but I think the overall depth of the coaching staff on that side of the ball is better. And I think you can start with the defensive line coach, Jim Tomsula, and then you can look at they finally have a good young building block in Jonathan Allen. Okay, and I think they added some speed at linebacker with Zach Brown. The safety situation, I mean, on paper we can sit here and say this is why it could work, but we don't really know. We have to see Craven's, what he can do as a full-time guy, and then Swearinger, and, how does Will Blackman progress in his second year? So I think there's some questions there to be answered, but I think the defense will go into the season probably feeling better about itself. And we'll see how that manifests in that way. And then offensively, I think with Pryor and Doxson, again, you can draw up the optimistic side, but we don't know. Doxson has to show he can stay healthy all year. Pryor, I think, will be very good. I think Crowder will have a strong year because they love him. If they're better, I think they're going to need to be better.
All right. So, John, getting back to the defense. So, Greg Minuski's the new defensive coordinator. Of course, he was there. I know he wasn't their number one choice, but Barry's gone. Minuski's in. What will be the characteristics of this defense from what you know about Minuski in terms of X's and O's strategically? Is there something Minuski will preach that Barry didn't, or vice versa?
Yeah, and first of all, I don't know that it's as simple for the success of their defense to say, with a change of schemes necessarily, or a change of the voice. I think there are some execution things that will be better because, again, I think the overall depth of the staff, the coordinator name, and if you can bring on a good staff, then you're not going to succeed. I think Greg Williams is an example of that. He has not had the same success since he left Washington. I think part of it is I think his staff here was excellent, and that helped a good coordinator succeed. So anyway, but going back to that, I think with Minuski, what you gather from players, what I heard even before this whole process was that, this is always a cliche when they change coordinators, but more aggressive. So, and I always hate, if in the early 2000s, the Redskins would have had the most aggressive defense ever because every time you bring a new coordinator in, that's what they say they're going to be. But I think in some ways there will be a different style. I think it'll be more man-to-man. I know there was some frustration at the end of the year with the Redskins not maybe using their corners to the way they should be used more. And again, I think the press man is an example. I think Bashad Breeland much better in that sort of situation than he is playing off. For example, I think Quentin Dunbar fits that well. Obviously, Josh Norman can play that. So I think that will be one style of change. So with more emphasis on man, you have different sorts of blitzes that you might send. I think the big thing is, and one thing that Will Compton was talking about the other day, was that Minuski kind of vowed to him to get the plays in quicker so they can at least get set and know what they're doing sooner, and then you can react a little bit quicker or better. So I think that will be something that that he felt he would be better with. And I think the other thing, and like right now, I mean, again, everything sounds great in May, okay, and everything's positive in May because there's been nothing that's gone wrong. But there's a level of maybe energy or enthusiasm that I think is there that it certainly would not have been in early March. Because I think at that time, you'd hear from guys like, what the heck's going on here? I think now after things have settled down, they get Jonathan Allen, they bring in Ryan Anderson, that things are a little bit better for them than it was a couple months ago.
I get the sense just from reading about Ryan Anderson and what we know, watching clips and that sort of thing, the type of player that he is, that he could have which of the two do you think will have the more immediate impact? I mean, you would think obviously it would be the first-round guy, but I feel like Anderson could just be a killer.
I think one thing that Anderson can do right away is he can help set the edge, I believe, right away because he does strong. Now, I think it's really hard, though, for an outside linebacker as a pass rusher to come in and make some instant impact because that's usually one of the things that takes a little bit longer to get used to, knowing how you have to rush. You have to learn how to rush the pass. Even like guys like Khalil Mack did not have a lot of sacks as a rookie. I think Preston Smith had 8, which was a lot for a rookie. And then you saw him drop down last year. So I think he could be a very good player for them right away. And I think like Allen might be in more position to do things because they need him more. So I think he could get, whereas if Ryan Anderson isn't completely ready, well, they just keep Preston Smith in there and they rotate him in.
Right.
And then you let him get ready. And whereas with Allen, he's going to start right away. I mean, there's nothing else that there's nobody else that's going to be there. But I will say, I think the one thing that will translate very well for Anderson is you kind of touched on it, is the attitude.
Right.
Everybody always talks about this nasty demeanor, and it's obviously meant as a compliment. I think the fire that he plays with will be a welcomed addition there.